So these are two portraits in our collection by the Dutch artist Martin van Heemskerk. These paintings have been dated to about 1527, 29. As part of doing some kind of technical analysis on these paintings, we took an X-ray of them. And X-rays can kind of show you if there have been any changes in the paint layers, if something has been painted over. We were really surprised to see that actually they had hands which had just been completely overpainted. It was clear that it was a later restoration rather than a change that the artist had made.
So what we had before was a very old restoration, more than 100 years old, we know that. And we have images of it from the beginning of the 20th century, which show the paintings both in this restored state. So we know we had old restoration on there. There are a few possible reasons that might explain it. Because this hand is quite damaged, I think it was probably easier for the restorer to just cover up the damaged area than it would have been to do the finer work, reconstructing fingers and things.
And perhaps did the same to the portrait of the lady, even though her hands were in very good condition. It seems a very drastic choice. We've been working very hard to reintegrate the damage in the male sitter's hands.
One of the main challenges with this hand, which doesn't show so well in this image, but it's actually quite abraded and a lot of the flesh paint's been cleaned off in previous cleaning campaigns around this area, and then we have these damages. So what I've really been doing is piecing together the sort of little islands of broken paint and glaze and using the information on the surface here to reconstruct the hand and bring back a sense of the anatomy of it and the modelling. And I also looked at the female portrait as a way of just comparing the techniques of them and really using that as a guide for the level of finish for this hand, because we know that the female portrait has a hand in a very good condition.
And what's great is that we uncovered two very beautiful rings on the lady's hands. It's possible that the paintings were cut down slightly, not width-wise, because we have these strips of wood which clearly show, the painted edge. But we think possibly at the bottom they might have been shaved down slightly.
I've retouched most of it, but there's a sort of knurled edge along the bottom of these, and sometimes along the top, which suggests that they could have been cut down at a later stage.
There is some damage to the paint and ground layers across the bottom edge.
I don't think it's been this huge amount that's been lost, but I just think there's enough there to alter the composition a bit. And I think maybe the restorer felt that they could mask that a bit by just painting out the hands altogether. It's probably a quick fix, basically, which is obviously a way of treating this that we wouldn't do these days. Also, just being careful about the levels of finish. This is a very, very polished finished painting, and so the retouching needs to be taken to a level that reflects that. But at the same time, I want to be mindful of the fact that this is an old object, it's an old painting, and the signifiers of age that it has are just as important. And that has come into play particularly up here. So when I was retouching this, as well as getting the sort of blue sky and things in, I was reconstructing some of the cracked areas and things, and also just recreating some of the texture of the cracked paint, just to sort of give the illusion that we have the real thing here, and just to allow the sky to read coherently as a sky again. We're fortunate that we've had the time and the resources and the light and the chemicals and this beautiful retouching media to do finer work and finer restoration now.